the qualifications of a speaker. And in the Purport, Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain the qualifications of a hearer as well. And then we discussed in detail how Mahārāja Parīkṣit was more than qualified and how he was a perfect and ideal listener, an ideal hearer of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And also we discussed how Sukadeva Goswami is the perfect speaker, a perfect spiritual master. So in this particular chapter, the process of creation, verses number 1 to 4 are the verses where Mahārāja Parīkṣit is actually concentrating his mind on Krishna. And verses number 5 to 10 are questions that will be asked by Mahārāja Parīkṣit. And then from verses number 11 onwards to the end of the chapter, it's Sukadeva Goswami who is offering prayers to the Lord. So again, today we'll be discussing another question by Mahārāja Parīkṣit. So let's start reading. So verse number 6. Bhuya eva vivitsami Bhagavan atma mayaya yathedam srujate vishvam durvibhavyam adishvare. Synonyms: Bhuya, again; eva, also; vivitsami, I wish to learn; Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead; Atma, personal; Ma yaya, by the energies; Yatha, as; Idam, this phenomenal world; Srijate, thus create; Vishwam, universe; Durvi bhavyam, inconceivable; Adishware, by the demigods. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, created these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods. Would anybody like to read the purport? It's a long purport, just the first paragraph maybe.
I can read, Mataji.
Yes, please.
In every inquisitive mind, the important question of the creation of the phenomenal world arises, and therefore for a personality like Mahārāja Parīkṣit, who was to know all the activities of the Lord from his spiritual master, such an inquiry is not uncommon. For every unknown thing, we have to learn and inquire from a learned personality. The question of creation is also one of such inquiries to be made to the right person. The spiritual master, therefore, must be one who is Sarvagya, as stated hereinbefore in connection with Shukdev Goswami. Thus, all inquiries on God which are unknown to the disciple may be made from the qualified spiritual master, and here the practical example is set by Mahārāja Parīkṣit. It was, however, already known to Mahārāja Parīkṣit that everything we see is born out of the energy of the Lord, as we have all learned in the very beginning of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Janmadhyasya Yataha. So Mahārāja Parīkṣit wanted to know the process of creation. The origin of creation was known to him, otherwise he would not have inquired how the personality of Godhead, by his different energies, creates this phenomenal world. The common man also knows that the creation is made by some creator and is not created automatically. We have no experience in the practical world that a thing is created automatically. Foolish people say that the creative energy is independent and acts automatically as electrical energy works. But the intelligent man knows that even the electrical energy is generated by an expert engineer in the localized powerhouse, and thus the energy is distributed everywhere under the resident engineer's supervision. The Lord's supervision in connection with creation is mentioned even in the Bhagavad Gita 9.10, and it is clearly said that it is clearly said there that material energy is a manifestation of one of many such energies of the Supreme. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. An inexperienced boy may be struck with wonder by seeing the impersonal actions of electronics or many other wonderful things conducted by electrical energy. But an experienced man knows that behind the action is a living man who creates such energy. Similarly, the so called scholars and philosophers of the world may, by mental speculation, present so many utopian theories about the impersonal creation of the universe, but an intelligent devotee of the Lord, by studying the Bhagavad Gita, can know that behind the creation is the hand of the Supreme Lord, just as in the generating electrical powerhouse there is the resident engineer. The research scholar finds out the cause and the effect of everything, but research scholars as great as Brahma, Shiva, and Indra, and many other demigods are sometimes bewildered by seeing the wonderful creative energy of the Lord. So, what to speak of the tiny, mundane scholars dealing in petty things? As there are differences in the living conditions of different planets of the universe, and as one planet is superior to others, the brains of the living entities in those respective planets are also of different categorical values. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one can compare the long duration of life of the inhabitants of Brahma's planet, which is inconceivable to the inhabitants of this planet Earth, to the categorical value of the brain of Brahmaji, also inconceivable to any great scientist of this planet. And with such high brain power, even Brahmaji has described in his great Samhita, Brahma Samhita 5.1, as follows: ईश्वरा परमा कृष्णा सच्चिदानन्दविग्रह अनादिरादिर्गोविन्द सर्वकारणकारणम्. Do you want me to continue, Mataji?
Just the translation of this one, and then we'll stop.
There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagwan, but Krishna is the supreme because none can excel him. He is the Supreme Person, and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord Govinda and the cause of all causes.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Om Ajnanatirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Adeshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubha Evacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So we can see over here that Mahārāja Parīkṣit is, being the perfect hearer. He is actually having a lot of submissive inquiries. And the question over here is about how the world is created. The very first sentence of the purport here says, in every inquisitive mind, the important question of the creation of the phenomenal world arises. Now, this particular very first sentence led me to the question that is every mind inquisitive? Is every person curious to know about such things? And just upon doing some research on natural curiosity that exists in a human being, we can see, and I'm sure each one of us have noticed, that when we are young, we are naturally more curious. Some are more curious than the others, and there is a lot of science behind it. But each one of us have a natural curiosity when we are younger. But when we grow older, when we get more experience, when we are a little bit more wiser, we stop leaning towards curiosity. We stop leaning towards inquisitiveness. We miss things. We miss the truth. We sometimes make false assumptions. And we make decisions which are, only half true. It all becomes about, in a world that we live in, it all becomes about our speed, our efficiency, our illusion that we know everything, and the mental overload because we have so much to do. So, the psychologist that I was looking at, she said a very powerful statement. She said, Curiosity is a superpower we all have. We just need to remember to lean into it and use it. I'll repeat it. Curiosity is a superpower we all have. We just need to remember to lean into it and use it. So if we really analyze ourselves, we might think that we are hearing Bhagavatam because we are curious about life. But that's really a question that each one should be asking themselves. When we hear the same pastime again and again, do we really feel inquisitive? The problem is not that the pastime is exhausted. We know everything about the pastime. That's not the problem. The problem is that our way of hearing, previously when we heard the pastime the first time, it's very active. And then when we hear the pastime again and again, the way we hear it becomes very passive. Srila Prabhupada said that Krishna's pastimes are Nitya Nava Naya Mana. This means that one can go on chanting and hearing about the Lord and never feel tired, but remain fresh and eager to hear more and more. If we feel a particular pastime or a particular thing that has been explained is stale, it's not fresh, then we must really contemplate and think, am I hearing this correctly? Am I really hearing it from deep within? If it's not happening, which means if we find a particular pastime stale, it means that we are not changing within. And Bhagavatam really must bring some changes in ourselves. So that's a question we need to ask ourselves. So somewhere along the line, as we grow older, the eagerness goes away, the curiosity goes away. And Radhanath Swami says this happens because we all become prisoners of short-term satisfaction. We only look at our vision is very short-term. And because we have a dominance of false ego, so then we don't recognize our true ego. We don't recognize our true essence. Because spiritual curiosity is natural to every soul, every single soul. But it may not necessarily be natural to the mind. What is the difference? Mind is the topmost layer in your subtle body. So after your gross body, the first layer that exists is mind. Now, mind, which is the outermost layer, is generally very restless. It is curious, but it is curious about sense pleasure. It is curious about material success. How to make money, how to become a millionaire, that's what it is curious about. It likes to compare ourselves to the other fellow mates around us. It is generally in the mode of passion and ignorance, right? When in the mode of ignorance, it feels very lazy, dull, sleepy, not inquisitive at all. But it is only in the state of goodness that the mind begins to ask the question, the real purpose of life. It will start to ask the truth of this world, right? So if we have spiritual inquisitiveness, we are working on our way upward. We are moving from mode of passion to the mode of goodness, which is an achievement in itself. So obviously we have moments in our life where we are in the mode of goodness, and in that particular mode, we will feel inquisitive. So inquiry is very natural for an intelligent person. And each one of us are very intelligent. Krishna has just designed us like that each one of us has intelligence. Srila Prabhupada explained that everybody has curiosity, but not everybody has philosophical inquisitiveness. Right? So this does not mean everyone will ask the question. Right? But once we start using our intelligence, what will happen is the inquiry will awaken. Right? For example, children, when we look at something, they might ask, what is this? Scientists will ask, how does this work? But devotees asks, who created this and why? Who and why are the questions devotee asks. And this shift in questioning, right? This shift in questioning is actually the beginning of a spiritual life, right? Viraj Krishna Prabhu often reminds us that we are not merely reading Śrīmad Bhāgavatam every day. We are studying Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Our sessions are called Śrīmad Bhāgavatam studies. And what does study mean? Study mean that we are paying attention. We are not just hearing the sound. We pause, we reflect, we don't rush to conclusion. The most important thing is we become reflective. So when we study in this way, then what happens? Bhagavatam is no longer familiar. We don't think, oh, I know this already. It actually becomes a guide. And that's what it is meant to be doing. It becomes a guide And it speaks differently to each one of us depending on the stage of life we are in our life. Right? For example, when Srila Prabhupada was really young, in 1922, when he met his spiritual master for the first time, he was not shy or passive, but immediately he asked the question. And what was his question? How could India benefit spiritually under British rule? Right? And what did Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what did he reply? The answer was direct. Krishna consciousness should be taught to the whole world, regardless of political condition. Right? This impressed Srila Prabhupada deeply. Right? And that was actually the turning point for Srila Prabhupada's lifelong mission. It turned everything for him. Not just Srila Prabhupada, we look at Srila Prabhupada's disciples as well. Hayagriva, one of the earlier disciples, he would ask a lot of thoughtful questions. One time he asked a question to Srila Prabhupada: if the soul is eternal and spiritual, then why does it suffer in the material world at all? Srila Prabhupada did not give a short answer because he could understand the inquisitiveness. He gave a long answer. He spoke about everything from the independence that we have to misusing it, to uh, to the desires that we have, to the responsibilities. He spoke about everything. Right? What came from that inquisitiveness? Srila Prabhupada said most of the answers that are given in the Science of Self-Realization, the book, comes from conversation from Hayagrav Prabhu. Right? So we can see that just like Mahārāja Parīkṣit, even Hayagrav was an ideal student asking all these questions. Right? It says in the purport that Mahārāja Parīkṣit, um, it was already known to Mahārāja Parīkṣit that everything we see is born out of energy of Lord, as we have learned in the beginning of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Janmadi Asya Yataha. So Mahārāja Parīkṣit wanted to know the process of creation. So we can see from the very beginning of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Mahārāja Parīkṣit is an ideal student. Right? What does Bhagavad Gita say? When something is arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not be disturbed by it. So Maharaj Parikshit was never disturbed by the situation he was put in. Right? Even if it appears to be a reverse according to one's calculation. Right? Sometimes we can see, Tamal Krishna Maharaj left his body in an accident. Right? Or we can see Jesus Christ, it's Christmas Day, Jesus Christ was crucified. It can obviously have adverse effect. It can be completely against the calculation, but devotees are not disturbed. They understand that there's a bigger plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Maharaj Parikshit understood that as well. So now his question was not about who created. His question was, how did the Lord create? So we can see Maharaj Parikshit is asking questions related to the Maya energy of the Supreme Lord. And then he will go on to the Chitta Shakti a bit later on. So we can understand that real knowledge begins after we have accepted God, not before. So Maharaj Parikshit has already accepted there is God, and then the real knowledge has begun. So accepting the existence of God is a good starting point. It's a proper starting point. So without God, knowledge can often answer how things work, right? But with God, knowledge will answer why things exist. How might be answered without God, but why can only be answered once we understand that God exists. Why am I here? What is the purpose of life? What is right or wrong? And then it goes on to say in the purport that Maharaj Parikshit is asking this question to the right person. That is very important. To the spiritual master who must be Sarvagna, right? Sarvagna, it is said in connection to Sukadev Goswami. So a guru acts as the authorized guide to everything, exactly as Sukadev Goswami did with King Parikshit. So a disciple can ask any question about God or spiritual life. No matter how deep it is, how difficult it is, a disciple must ask. But Guru, because a Guru is Sarvagna, he answers the questions perfectly based on his understanding, providing knowledge that is correct, which is practical for our spiritual life and liberating. Just last night we were discussing how A guru understands each of his disciples so well and does not give the same solution or same answer to everybody. A guru understands your nature. A guru understands your, strengths, weaknesses, and he makes your spiritual life very practical, very easy in a way. Right? The third point that has been discussed in the first paragraph of this purport is that energy does not act automatically. And the example is given of the electricity. Electricity energy, it doesn't run automatically. There is a powerhouse and there is someone who is operating things. So, and it is said very important that the common man also knows that the creation is made by some creator, not automatically. Right? One Srila Prabhupada, when he was in New York, he said, if a farmer plows the fields, the crop grows. But if he doesn't, the seed cannot grow by themselves. Someone needs to go, put the seed in there, water it nicely, maybe put some manure. There should be sunlight, the soil should be fertile. So everything is taken care of by the farmer. So we can say nature is the servant, Krishna is the master. Right? Srila Prabhupada, of course, laughed and he added that it is foolish to think that seeds can suddenly rise into a full grown crop without a farmer. Similarly, the material world cannot exist without Krishna. That is just not possible. And it is extremely foolish if we think like that. The fourth point that has been highlighted in this particular paragraph is it highlights the importance of Lord's supervision in connection to creation. And the Srila Prabhupada has quoted the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse 10. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam hetunanena konteya jagat viparivartate. It means this material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So it is my energy, it is Krishna's energy, and it is working under his direction. All right. Then it goes on to say that the research scholars, the scientists today can find out the cause and effect. They try to find out the cause and effect of everything. But even the greatest scholars like Brahma, Shiva, Indra, or other demigods, they find this creation by the creative energy of the Lord very bewildering. Right? Forget about the tiny mundane scholars. Even demigods find it very bewildering. Right? It is mentioned that every living entity from Brahma to the ant is individually bewildered by the three modes of material nature. So everyone from Brahma to the ant, everyone is bewildered. Right? When Lord created this countless universes was about to appear, Brahma, the creator of the universe, another demigods like Shiva and Indra came to observe. They wanted to see what's happening. And they're very learned, intelligent, and they wanted to witness something far beyond their comprehension. Now, as Krishna started creating this world, the planets were formed, the ocean started filling up with water, there was lights and stars. Then the life forms emerged. There were plants, animals, fishes, human beings, all in perfect balance. Then they could see day and light, seasons, gravity that was working. So now Brahma and other demigods, they were trying to study everything. And Brahma thought, I'm the creator and I should be able to understand how all these things work. Shiva looked at it, the oceans especially, and said, I can maintain this, but how did it come to be so perfect? Indra looked at the planets and storms and just was scratching his head. It's only then they realized that this is all the wonderful energy of Krishna. And without his direction, nothing could work so perfectly. Nothing can be created so perfectly, and nothing can be maintained so perfectly. And all the demigods, they bowed down in awe and said, we are powerful, yet we are like children in front of Lord's energy. Only he knows the plan. So it's only Krishna who knows the plan. Right? Even for great demigods like Brahma and Shiva, they had to bow down and they realized that only Krishna knows the plan. Right? So to even to Brahma, this world is inconceivable. Right? Now Brahma is someone who has such a long duration of life. right? Such a long duration of life, still he finds it extremely inconceivable. So, what to speak of humans like us? How can we conceive how this world came into being? Right? As a child, just talking about me, my curiosity now. As a child, when I was curious, I was extremely curious about Bermuda Triangle. So, Bermuda Triangle, I'm sure you know, it's a region in Atlantic where the ships and the planes, when they come into that particular triangle, they disappear mysteriously. And I was very curious. And back then, it was not, everything was not on Google. And when I could not understand, I would just generally, when things were not, I was not able to understand, I would say, only God knows. Right? Back then, I would not say Krishna knows, but I would only say, only God knows. So, coming from India has that advantage because Indian parents teach that when we don't know about something, when we fall into a difficult trap, when we are, when we feel like we are lost, generally the parents will guide us towards a higher power. Like, back then, I just felt like I don't know something, I'm just putting it on God. That is ignorance. But now I feel there is a deeper understanding. Yes, we cannot know everything, right? And we must practice that. We may not know everything. We can only know some things by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga. Only then it's possible to know something. Brahma, who has such intelligence and power, he is not able to understand, comprehend everything fully. So, what to speak of us, right? So, we have to completely rely on the mercy to be able to understand inconceivable Lord, right? And we should approach one who has already received mercy from the Lord. And how do we do that? Whom do we approach? We approach Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada already has received mercy from the Lord, and through him we receive the mercy. Right? Once, when a young disciple of Srila Prabhupada was critically ill, devotees gathered around him and started chanting very softly. He was very meek on the final stages. Suddenly, the devotee opened his eyes. He looked at the doorway and said very clearly in the dying moments, Srila Prabhupada has come. Srila Prabhupada has come. Those who were present in that room, they were struck. No one had mentioned Prabhupada at that moment. Everyone was quietly chanting. But there was no other reason for him to say it. But his anxiety had disappeared, his face had become very peaceful, and he softly uttered, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. And shortly afterward, he left his body. There are many such pastimes where we see that Srila Prabhupada appears, and this is what mercy looks like. When another disciple of Srila Prabhupada was dying in the hospital, he was not able to respond to anything. And devotees were softly reading Bhagavad Gita. And as devotees started reading the purport of Bhagavad Gita, that disciple on his deathbed, he moved his lips. And what did he say? He said, whispered, Yes, Prabhupada. So he was responding to the purport, Yes, Prabhupada. And he immediately became very calm after that. Because in Srila Prabhupada's purport, he could hear Srila Prabhupada's voice. And he responded back saying, Yes, Srila Prabhupada. And he soon again passed after very peacefully. So I wanted to spend the next few minutes because as we come towards the end of this year, right, even we must understand that we are 1 year closer to being with Srila Prabhupada, our eternal Guru. We are 1 year closer to meeting Srila Prabhupada, right? Whether that moment comes sooner or later is not in our hands. But how prepared are we for those moments? That is a question we must really contemplate upon. And this year end normally gives a good contemplation time, right? So we must ask ourselves, where am I standing spiritually? Yes, we may chant 16 rounds every day, but we must ask ourselves sincerely, are those rounds, like Sachinandan Maharaj says, living names? Or are those rounds, like my Guru Maharaj says, broken names? Right? Where is the mind running? Do I meet Krishna in the holy name? Or do I just can't wait to finish off that meeting with Krishna? Yes, we are regularly hearing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam classes, but we must reflect, is this Bhagavatam actually entering my heart, or is it just making its way through, my ears? After hearing so much, has my dependence on Krishna increased? Or is it just, another session that I feel I'm habituated to hear every morning? Externally, we may look very steady. Each one of us may look very steady because we follow regulations, we serve in some sort of capacity, we attend different programs. There's some devotees I know who don't miss any program. But Srila Prabhupada never measured the advancement by externals alone. He measured it by our consciousness. So what effect is everything having on our consciousness? Because ultimately, we are all getting ready for that one moment of dying. That is the final examination. And the final examination is remembrance. And remembrance does not come automatically. It comes when it is practiced daily. Right? A very simple, a very practical, reflective exercise that each one of us can do is, this week is, before the year ends is, my Guru Maharaj used to say this, inventory check. So take up notebook, paper, and write these things down. When we write it, everything changes. Right? First question is, who has brought me closer to Srila Prabhupada this year? What has brought me closer to Srila Prabhupada this year? What? Is it my chanting with more attention? Is it my reading my books? Is it serving? Or is it, accepting a guru? What has brought me closer to Srila Prabhupada this year? Second question is, what has kept me away from Srila Prabhupada this year? What is it? Is it the Vaishnava aprad that I have? It is the pride that I have. It is my laziness. Is it my oversleeping? Is it my mobile that has kept me at a distance from Srila Prabhupada? So the first question is, what brought me closer to Srila Prabhupada? The second question is, what has kept me away from Srila Prabhupada? And the third question is, what would I change in my sadhana? What would I change in my sadhana? Right? And that change doesn't have to be a very big change. Let's start small. One small adjustment, not a big dramatic promise, just one little thing. Maybe chanting one round with full attention every day and slowly, or maybe touching beads before touching the phone. That can help us to become closer to Srila Prabhupada. He would like that. Or maybe reading one page of Srila Prabhupada books every day, but in a very prayerful mood. Right? Maybe reducing distractions around us. These things will really be appreciated by Srila Prabhupada. So let's try to build and strengthen our relationships with Srila Prabhupada. Let's try to hear Srila Prabhupada talking through these purports that we hear every day. And when we get into that mode, then we are making our steps closer to Krishna automatically. Those things happen, the experiences happen automatically. But it's all a matter of making those little changes and contemplating, reflecting. So with those little thoughts, I will end today's, I'll conclude. But if you have any comments, corrections, any thoughts on whatever I've said, any realizations, please feel free to share them. Thank you so much. Grantraj Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, then hopefully everyone can find time to make a little reflective exercise for themselves and have a wonderful Krishna conscious day, and we will see you again tomorrow morning for Bhagavatam studies. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.